again, when your thumbnail is you fucking reading right out of the gate, it's not very promising. But again, he had to crank these out. He was way behind on his workload. He had 4 talking points from the Heritage Foundation, and bada bang, bada boom, he had to whip this thing out.
It's a tale of corruption and
oh my God.
cronyism.
At least I can skip this one.
Lives.
Oh my gosh.
Well, guys, this one's another.
Well, guys, Abdul is totally a boing. How fast do you think we'll get to? I'm going under 10 seconds. He's already reading, so under 10 seconds to air quotes.
Amazing one. Listen to Joe Biden here.
Listen to Joe Biden here.
I quote,
Oh, is this the, okay. All right.
I was able to bring gasoline.
I'm sorry. What did Joe say?
Guys, this one's another amazing one. Listen to Joe.
It's another amazing one.
Joe Biden here. I quote, I was able to bring gasoline.
I was able to bing gasoline 6 fucking seconds. Even less, you're right, 4 fucking seconds. And he has to do it on every fucking word. It's like, it's a tick at this point. This has got to be a drug side effect. Okay, loss of attention, incapable of forming logical thought, and in some cases, people will make air quote bunny ears and flex them on every word. That's never happened to me.
Down well below $1.60, but it's inching up because of what the Russians and the Saudis did. So now, at first it was the Russians, then it was the Saudis. Nothing to do with his energy policy.
No, actually, hold on one second. Let me see. U.S. oil output. See, let's see. Yeah. This is, let's see how long this is. Yeah, this is October 8th. We are officially, right now, not in Trump's America, days ago, we are currently the world's largest oil producer. Not just that we have the largest stores. I think Venezuela technically has the largest stores of oil, the reserves. When the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and its partners, often known as OPEC Plus, announced a production cut of 2 million barrels of oil on Wednesday. By the way, everybody has been saying the Saudis cut 2 million barrels a day of oil. No, the Saudis are going to cut or kind of stay at maybe 500,000 to 600,000. All the countries combined are agreeing under Saudi control largely, but with they're agreeing on this because they see the price of oil going down too quickly to cut production across all of them, because if one of them did it, the rest of them would just rush into the fucking market. They had to do this as an organized group. That's why it's the OPEC plus countries. So they are bullying the smaller countries into doing more of it, cutting more. White House called for the decision short-sighted and vowed to look into alternatives for U.S. oil supply. But the oil cut raised a question. Over the past few decades, various presidents have stressed the importance of U.S. energy independence, only to lose it under President Biden. Claimed that under his term, Since 2018, however, the United States has been the largest producer of oil and gas in the world and a net exporter. The country exports more than it imports. Why then do oil prices hinge on the actions of the international oil cartel? The answer is, like the global oil market, is complex. The most straightforward answer, according to Anne-Louise Hittel, Vice President of Oils Research at the research and consultancy company Wood Mackenzie, is that U.S. demand still outstrips its own supply. We're the world's largest producer, but we're also the world's largest consumer. U.S. produces 18.8 million barrels of oil per day, but consumes slightly more, 20.5 million barrels per day, which is why, by the way, we are trying to move our commuter cars specifically to electric. That in and of itself would do it. If not even a vast majority, if a tipping point majority of cars move to either hybrid or electric between now and 2030, by the way, we're now within the window. We don't have to buy anything outside. We only buy 20 million barrels. We only buy 2 million barrels. And we sell some of it, like there's a trade-off. It's like 3 and 5, but you get the point. Let's see, even if the U.S. production exactly matched demand, the country would still be importing and exporting oil constantly. Crude oil can be heavy or light, sweet or sour. Those qualities often affect how much it needs to be refined and for what uses. U.S. oil companies constantly export crude oil and import refined oil and vice versa. When it comes to insulating our economy from global oil price shocks, being a big producer means next to nothing, said Bob McNally, the founder and president of Rapidan Energy Group and the author of Crude Volatility, The History and Future of Boom-Bust Oil Prices. That's right, we're heading towards one of the bust times, for the record. Real power in the oil market comes from being able to stabilize prices. McNally argues that what matters most for stabilizing global oil prices is spare production capacity, defined as how much a producer can ramp up oil production within 30 days. That spare production capacity allows a producer to ramp up or slow down oil production basically at will, shifting global prices. Saudi Arabia has a huge amount of spare production capacity, around 2 million barrels a day. Once the United States did have spare production capacity that was managed by the Texas Railroad Commission, but as more easily reached oil dried up to be replaced by harder to reach shale oil, that power disappeared. Shale oil is harder to get online, and once it's online, you don't want to stop it. U.S. oil producers, many of whom are beholden to their shareholders, can hold on to spare capacity in the same way as their Middle Eastern counterparts. That's the difficulty when you're working with shareholder-owned organizations in democracies versus royal families. Spare production capacity is expensive to maintain, which is why no other producers maintain it, said Hiddle. In the U.S., she added, investors would never put up with spending capital to develop production and then letting it sit idle until the right moment. There's no long form in it because the entire world, by the way, can speculate in the American oil market. So we couldn't even just have Americans, through our investors, like see ads on the air going, suck it up, America. Your oil investment may be down for a while, but brighter days are right around the corner. Buy oil bonds or some shit like that. They can't do, we don't operate like that because the investor class is multinational. Anyways, there we go. Just for the record.
Obviously. Now, I don't know what these...
Now, I don't know my head from my ass.
Talking about bring it down below $1.60, bring it down $1.60. Well, by the way, just so we're...
By the way, at $60 a barrel or approaching 55, which is where it really is if the Russian issue is handled, that's what he's talking about. That's the amount. And with demand destruction, that drives the price down even more over the course of a year and a half. That's what he's talking about.
Clear, it's still basically double what it was when he took office. Now, we also happen to be draining our strategic oil reserves right before an election. Presumably, I won't say definitely or...
Yeah, he doesn't know.
I'm going to get fact-checked or whatever, blah, blah, blah. We're draining...
Hold on. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. See, hold on. We're at 694 million barrels. Let's see. SPR current level. Sorry, it's 594, and it was 695. A sale and drawdown in 2011 reduced the inventory to 6,959. Current day's import at the end of year 2021, the SPR's crude oil inventory was 594. Current level of 416, down from 618 a year ago. That's what it was. So we're down 200 million barrels. That's what he's talking about.
Obviously.
Which, by the way, we're nowhere near needing.
Because I'll get fact-checked and they'll pretend like... that's not happening to lower prices temporarily before.
No, it's not done to lower prices temporarily before the election.
For an election to try to squeeze out whatever possibility they could. But
Whatever possibility they could.
It's not clear what Joe Biden's saying because
we're listening to it filtered through your drug-addled head.
he's never
Why don't you just show him saying it, or put the article on screen so we can see what he had, what he said?
clear. But gas ain't anywhere near $1.60. But if he brought it down $1.60 from where it was, think about that for a second, and it's still double what it was when he took office. Like, long before the Russians invaded Ukraine, long before he went to OPEC and said, we'd like you to drill more. And they were like, okay, you say that, we're going to actually do less. That's the power that Joe Biden has.
Yes, you do realize his dad, Trump, went to the Saudis and told them to put less oil out, not drill. I mean, he thinks it's drilling, but produce less.
They're actually going to do less than what he asked for and what they said they were going to do.
Eileen saying, hey, chatters, when you get an electric car, do you have to get an electric charging station at home? No. Most of them come with just a regular plug transformer. You can get a battery system that goes in the house that you can charge your car off of, that gets energy from the grid or from solar panels if you have them on their house during optimal times, and stores it. And therefore, by the time your car needs a charge, it'll charge off that battery instead of pulling it from the house.
Because he asked.
But you don't need it.
But you know what?
Most of them carry a cable around, like where in the spare tire area of your car.
Really interesting is, guys, if we actually had real journalists, like actual people who are journalists.
You mean like Maggie Haberman or?
Not activists. We have plenty of activists, but if we had.
We totally do. We have plenty of activists. We're up to our ass in activists. What are you talking about? Sorry, what are you reading?
Actually, real journalists, they'd let you know that, again, average gasoline prices are still about $1.50 higher than when Joe Biden took office. And
right. Because we were still in COVID.
that, again, draining our strategic oil reserves weeks before an election in what appears to be a ploy to make prices go down.
To benefit. To benefit the consumer because they're basically being held hostage by Russia.
When he said that the buck was going to stop with him because it's always someone else's fault.
No, that was your dad. I remember Afghanistan healthcare plan 2 weeks away.
Listen to him yourself.
I am president of the United States of America,
and
the buck stops with me.
Now, again, when gas prices go up, there's nothing.
Hold on. Why the fuck was he able to play that one, but not the current quote?
Nothing he can do, according to the media. When they go down a few cents, it's all because of his policy. It's amazing how that happens.
It's almost as if you're mad that your dad, when he said that, when he took it, like any good numbers were his, any bad numbers were the Fed's or somebody else's. Nobody bought it.
Zero accountability. Talk out of both sides of your mouth. Highlight when something a little bit good happens.
Which is obviously terrible.
You take credit. When it goes really, really wrong, you disavow, right? Remember the 4th of July barbecue? You saved 10 cents last year, right? This year, that same basket of goods is up $10. That's not my problem. I had nothing to do with this.
Yeah, that's how he talks.
So gas prices are still almost 2x what happened when he entered office, long before the Saudis.
This seems like a, do you think they're, what's the subtext to this whole video? They're worried about abortion and the other issues. The immigration thing didn't work, by the way. In the polling that's come out, the stunts to send migrants to New York and other places worked with Republican voters, but it did not drive them to vote more in primaries, and it is not driving them to the polls more. They just think it's cool that Abbott's poning people, but it is not making them more apt to vote. Whereas women and Democrats are tending to vote more because of all the issues that are actually genuinely important, like women's rights and immigration on a positive sense, because these kind of stunts are grotesque. but one of the areas that is still dogging everyone, and it will anytime you're in a situation like this, and the Saudis and the Russians and the Chinese know this because they've been manipulating our economy for years, and they do it, to try and trend us towards a way that's more favorable to them. If they really liked Biden and they thought Biden was doing them a fucking favor, if he was really in their pocket, they would be doing him all kinds of, they would help him buoy the economy in the process. They're not. Because his policies are actually having a negative effect on their economies. So they're trying to get rid of them and tacitly supporting Trump in the process.
Long before Russia, all of these things, and nothing. It has nothing to do with like shutting down American energy.
We didn't shut down American energy. We literally are at, I want to see what the comparison is for that capacity. Hold on. U.S. oil output capacity graph? I don't know. Yeah, here's the EIA. Short-term energy outlook. This is the kind of shit that is impossible for Don Jr. to read. 2021, 23. Okay, so in 2020, when everything was shut down, they've got this, the average price for WTI spot was $39.17. 2021, obviously, as we start going back, it goes up high. It's in 2022, the average is expected to be $98.90 in 2023, and that's because they're trying to, the oil producers, the OPEC plus countries are trying to limit supply to keep the price high. The Brent crude oil spot price in our forecast averages $98 per barrel in the fourth quarter of 2022 and $97 in 2023. The possibility of petroleum supply disruptions and slower than expected crude oil production growth continues to create the potential for higher oil prices, while the possibility of slower than forecast economic growth creates the potential for lower prices. So they're fighting against each other. U.S. crude oil production in our forecast averages 11.8 million barrels per day in 2022 and 12.6 million barrels per day in 2023. This would set a record for the U.S. crude oil production during a year. The current record is 12.3 million, set in 2019. Like this was going up, then COVID hit. Now we're back on track. This is because of standards set during the Obama administration. So we are, let's see. Yeah, 12.6 by next year. We're 11.8 right now. We're still at, let's see, where's our capacity one? Component of annual change. Yeah, so 2020, look at the change. So in 2020, it took a giant shit. Down negative 2 million barrels a day. Then it went up in 2021 because, Biden came in and killed production. And then comparatively, it stayed, again, this is up by a certain number. This is the zero baseline, I guess. These and these. And then motor gasoline, look how much it made up of that. Look at the red. So the red part, let's see if I can blow this up for you guys. This is gas used to drive around. That ate shit in 2020. And the capacity, the refinery capacity and use is still dropping down this year. And then slightly entering back into the picture next year as a real mark of like economic impact.
It has nothing to do with like ESG mandates. It has nothing.
It doesn't have anything to do with ESG mandates. He's just throwing in Glenn Beck listed things
To do with all of the stupid policy that he's putting forward in it, right?
Forward in it, all right? Like what?
Why don't we make it so we're not dependent on other countries' oil? All you people who are like,
yeah, we're trying to by shifting commuter cars rather to electric or hydrogen, for example, over time, and using as little oil and gas as possible. Right now, we use more than we make, even at massive capacity.
stand with Ukraine. You know how to hurt Russia? Pump American oil. Don't be dependent on them. Don't let
We're not.
them drive up the prices.
They're not. The OPEC countries are.
Don't believe me? Go look at the charts of where all these oil prices were. Go look at the charts of where the consumer price index
Yes, where oil prices were when the entire world was shut down.
were, CPI stuff, when Biden took office. And then once he started implementing his policies.
His policies? Policies is the word?
Charts of where all these oil prices were. Go look at the charts of where the consumer price index were, CPI stuff, when Biden
CPI stuff.
took office. And then once he started implementing his policies.
His policies.
From Trump, it just starts going up like this across the
Across the board.
board.
Until COVID hits, in which case he dragged his feet while he was making a deal with the Chinese. And while Americans were in food lines, so made the largest sale of beef, pork, and soybeans to the Chinese in 1 month during the summer of 2020. And they still didn't meet but a third of their phase one deal on his trade deal of 3 phases, 2 of which never got signed.
You know when gas was around 160?
When no one was going anywhere? Can't we go back to that? Wow, that was the ditch out. Did they just kill him at 323? Is that what it is? Look at this number. 323. Is that a QAnon thing?